We send our children to college thinking we've laid the groundwork for their Jewish lives, when actually it's in college when we as students create that foundation for ourselves. There is a crucial window of time when we are at college, a delicate place where we are searching and struggling and deciding, a place where our parents cannot reach us or teach us. And Chabad, this building, is where we, in our fragile Jewish state, can go and be sustained. Many of my friends at Binghamton who drew strength from Chabad House were kids who had grown up at Jewish day schools, gone to Orthodox synagogue, wore kippot, ate kosher food, did all the things people imagine an observant Jew to do. And they were no less fragile than me. Chabad is the anchor that keeps them fastened to their Judaism at a time when they could quite simply drift away. How does Chabad do it? With boundless optimism, with love, with intellect, with delight. Chabad shows us how Judaism can enrich rather than burden our lives. So many organizations, even and perhaps especially Jewish ones, can make you feel like the other. Chabad is the one place where everyone is expected to be different, believe differently, have different traditions or no traditions, knowledge or no knowledge. Chabad is where, whatever your place, that is the right place to be. Which is why no one drags their feet to Chabad House on Friday night. How many of us can say that about our own current places of worship? My friends and I would get dressed and bundled up for a longish and usually cold walk to Chabad House. And for many of us, it was our first stop on the night that would later be followed by house parties or bar hopping or whatever. A great number of us were not observant enough to keep Shabbat or to not eat out or not drive. When we arrived, we would crowd into essentially the current exercise room, the basement of the Slonim house, with chairs set up for davening. Davening was always enthusiastic and unlike anything many of us had ever experienced. And then the chairs would get moved away and tables got set up for dinner in that same cramped space. However cramped it became, there was always room for one more chair. And I remember thinking when we moved from that basement room to the first new building that we would never feel cramped again, and how wonderfully wrong I was. My friends and I would find a table, and we would start to store the soda bottles underneath the table because we knew that once we sat down, we would not be able to get back up to get more soda. I had never in my life had so much pleasure being Jewish. Friday nights at Chabad are for many Binghamton students their first peek at what Chabad has to offer. But Chabad does not begin and end on Friday night. Chabad takes it beyond Friday night. It's a holistic, all-service sort of place. I participated in movie nights and Simchas Torah celebrations and Purim gift bag deliveries and ladies' night and cabarets. We can all point to fond memories at college, but how many of these created a hunger within us, a desire to recreate that emotion of great happiness again and again? That is the magic of Chabad. I began to consciously think about the choices I made in relation to my Judaism. I even took advantage of a Chabad Torah study program one summer, and to be honest, I really scared my mother. I understood that to make choices about Judaism that were different from my mother's was perhaps in some way a message to her that what she did for me wasn't good enough. My mother was wary of any involvement I had with Chabad. She was concerned that I might become too Jewish, with all of the negative connotations that held for her based on her upbringing. But to her relief, by the time I graduated college, I was engaged to a nice, reformed Jewish boy. My husband, Aaron, and I didn't keep kosher. We didn't go to synagogue. We spent a Yom Kippur in Niagara Falls and one Passover in Paris, croissants and all. I had married a Jew. Halachically, our kids would be Jewish, and I felt that I had somehow completed my commitment to the Jewish people. But my connection to Chabad remains. Throughout my post-Binghamton years, I had some tough decisions that I needed to make, crises of health and faith, struggles that all of us experience, and in each of those moments and trials, I would tell my husband, Aaron, I want to call Ricky and see what she says. And each time, my husband would give me a look of deep concern, frightened that I would be advised in some fanatical way, only to be pleasantly surprised that Ricky's advice, or that of the rabbi she had consulted, very much mirrored his own liberal secular one. All of the ways in which Chabad of Binghamton impacted my life pales in comparison with what happened next. And here is the true power of Chabad. Here is your glimpse into the future. In March of 2004, I had the double blessing of giving birth to my twins. Everything that had laid dormant in the basement of my subconscious awoke in me. I realized in that moment that I wasn't just supposed to have Jewish children, I was supposed to raise Jewish children. Not because of the Holocaust or because my parents said so, but because I wanted them to have a framework for their lives, meaning, relevance, joy, humanity. I wanted what many parents want for their children. The difference is, I knew how to do it. I felt confident and skilled. It had been modeled for me in this place. That I learned at Chabad. I learned it from the Slonims, and not just Rabbi and Rifki, but their children as well. There were fewer of them, by the way, and it was just easier to keep track of them. Chabad laid the foundation that enables me to eventually build the structure of my present Jewish life. Chabad gave me the blueprint. When my children, Eliana and Gil, were born, I consciously gave them Hebrew names so other Jews could find them. I got a moil to travel to Tampa for my son's Brit Milah. I koshered my kitchen. I got a double dishwasher. I made my own kosher baby food. I'm partial to the gastrointestinal side of the religion. We switch everything over for Passover, and we, really my husband, build a sukkah in the backyard every year. I don't talk to Eliana and Gil about the responsibility of being Jewish. I don't tell them they need to marry a Jew, but they tell me they love being Jewish. We still don't keep Shabbat. We eat out at restaurants. My kids will go to public school. We're far from being observant, but my children relish in being Jewish. They relate to their world as Jews. They tell the passing of the seasons by the holidays. They bake challah with me every week. They look forward to Friday night dinners and lighting their candle, and they recite Shema every night before they go to bed. And guess what? Whenever my mother witnesses any of these moments and I glance over at her, she has tears in her eyes. As resistant as my mother was to all things Chabad, she now feels deep gratitude. She looks around at her contemporaries bemoaning their children's non-Jewish partners, the baptisms of their grandchildren, the daughters who are happy to finally get a Christmas tree, and she too knows the secret of Chabad. I told my mother that I was struggling a bit about how best to spend this time with you today, about how worried I was that I wouldn't do this day, this place, these people justice. My mother, a woman who fretted I would be too Jewish, who tried to convince me not to spend a summer with them, who against her better judgment drove an hour in the night from Tampa to Sarasota to accompany me to the mikvah, who didn't want me to consult the Slonims about a serious health scare that I had, all for fear and the natural suspicion of people she perceived to be so unlike herself. And she gave me some advice. Here's what she said in an email to me. I will not presume to tell you what to write, but let me remind you of a few things I'm sure you already know. Tell your story. Why did you first go to Chabad? Just for the food? You were curious? You were in need of a welcoming Jewish place? Remember what you found. Warmth, understanding, a sense of community, the opportunity to learn, to get closer to your roots. You had a Reform upbringing, but you felt a sense of loss and you needed more. This new community helped you find your center, allowed you to grow spiritually advised, taught you, helped you through crisis. They have been there for you with guidance. You keep a more traditional home now. Tell them how you felt about going to the mikvah. Share with them what the Slonims mean to you, how grateful you and Aaron are for their support. Talk about why you're still in contact with them after so many years and so many miles. And of course, share with them how honored you feel for the invitation and how much you appreciate their work. I am still a good kid, so I hope I succeeded in doing what my mother told me to do. I want to leave you with another secret, very recently revealed. When we dedicate ourselves to Chabad at Binghamton, we help guarantee not just the next generation of strongly connected Jews who will raise strongly connected and committed Jews, but we help bring our parents and our grandparents out of the shadow of the Holocaust and into the light and joy of their own Yiddishkeit and that of their children and their grandchildren. Thank you all so much for making me feel so welcome here with you today, and Mazal Tov.